Hello, welcome, and good morning, everybody. My name is Caitlin Lamb. I am a Product Marketing Manager for CA Agile Central, and welcome to the first ever Agile Central Community Webcast. I'm here with Peggy Graham today. She is a Technical Customer Success Manager for Agile Central, and this is the first of a monthly series led by the Agile Central team, and it's designed to help AAC users like you have better usability and a more successful experience using the tool. So today, Peggy is going to be talking about the top 10 things that every Rally or CA Agile Central user should know. So I will hand it off to her.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm just going to dive in and get started. And during the presentation, I will slip and I'm going to call it Rally because that's just my vocabulary. But no, when I say Rally, I mean CA Agile Central. So with that, we're going to there we go. So here's the agenda of kind of what those top 10 are. I was going to make it look like a Letterman list where they all faded in and faded out, but I figured that would take too long. But here's the list, and then I'm just going to dive into them and get started. The first is around the project hierarchy setup. So within Rally, when you initially log in and create your projects, you want to really think about what should that hierarchy look like, because it's going to impact your reporting and it's going to impact how things roll up at the portfolio level. It may not be something that you're doing right away, but it's going to be something that down the line you want to think about how you want to report on that data. A basic hierarchy would really just be 2 levels, where I've got a fulfillment team, a payment team, a shopping team, for example, and then I've got my Acme Corp up at the top so that I can go to one of those teams and see just their information, or I can click on Acme and I can see all of my teams combined. That's a very simple architecture, though. You may have something more complex. Here we've got an online store at the top, something kind of like an Amazon or an eBay, and then I've broken up my online store into different functional areas. So I have my consumer site, I have my platform, I have reseller site, and then I have my teams underneath that. That's assuming that there are dedicated teams, so fulfillment team is working on consumer site and only consumer site. If you have teams that are working on multiple projects, you may need a different hierarchy, and there is a help link here that will take you to the hierarchy help, and it will give you some other options as well if your organization doesn't fit into something that's quite that neat. That hierarchy then is going to impact where you're storing the information within Rally. So you'll see, for example, that at that team level, fulfillment team, payment team, shopping team, that's typically where the work my teams are doing is going to live. So there you'll see user stories, defects, tasks, etc. Things that are higher level, that are more a part of the organization, portfolio items, things like themes and initiatives, they're more typically something up at the top. So you'll see those at the online store level, the consumer site. If we had features that only one team was working on, they might be down at the team level, but more frequently they're up higher as well. So I wanted you to kind of get a feel for thinking through how would you set up your hierarchy so that you can report on it, and where would you be storing your content within Rally. Some of the best practices around that you will see is not duplicating teams in the hierarchy. So that was where if the teams aren't dedicated, I don't want to put fulfillment team under consumer site and platform, for example, because then the team has 2 places that they have to go to look at their work, and that can be misleading. We don't want to put time boxes in the hierarchy or things that have a start and an end date. So if I have a feature or an initiative and it starts here and it ends in 6 months, that's not something that I'll reflect in the hierarchy. That's something that you'll reflect through portfolio items. And again, remember that top level, that online store, that Acme, because that's what lets you report across the entire organization. So it's worth putting some time thinking about this. If your hierarchy is already there and you're like, oops, we didn't make that top level or something, that is something you can easily change later. But it's going to impact the reporting. So that's top 10, number 1. The next one, as we go on, is around time boxes. And time boxes are one of those things in Rally that are sometimes frequently misunderstood. So iteration or sprint, that one's pretty straightforward. That's that 1 to 4 week, 2 weeks is somewhat typical, time period where the teams are building work. It could be things, user stories, defects, tasks, and ideally all of our user stories are something small enough that they fit within that single iteration. That part is pretty well understood, but where things start to get murky is around releases. And releases is one of those overloaded words that means different things to different people. In Rally terminology, or in the Rally vocabulary, a release is a time box. It's somewhat analogous to a quarter. It's 2 to 3 months. This example is 2 to 4 months, maybe 4 to 6 iterations. But a release is not, we are shipping 2.5A to customers. It's just that bigger time box, and you're going to see releases when you get into the portfolio and that level of reporting. So if I have a release, it may start at the beginning of iteration 4. I want it to have the start date of iteration 4. It may end at the end of iteration, say, 6 or 7, so I want it to have the same end date as iteration 6 or 7. And I'm going to create those time boxes, my iterations, my releases, at the very top level of my hierarchy, so up at that online store that we just talked about, and I'm going to check a box that says create an all-child project. That way all my teams are on the same iteration cadence, the same release cadence, and then when I do my reports, everything rolls up cleanly. The last time box that you'll see within Rally is around milestones. And milestones are a particular date that you are targeting, and we want to get work done by that date. That date could be something fixed. Maybe there's a trade show or some kind of a customer event that we want to demo new functionality. Maybe it's when we want to have a beta release or we want to push things out to production. But that milestone is where we set a date and we can assign work to that. And then you can do reporting based on that milestone. So those are the Rally time boxes and a little bit on how you set it up. And again, I have a link to the help if you want to learn more about it. Okay, the next one is around custom pages. And custom pages are really a very useful way that you can get whatever reporting or information or statistics that you need out of Rally set up in the way that you need to see it. So under any of those menu options, I'm under the Home button, but under Home, Plan, Track, Quality, Portfolio, Reports, any of those, if you drop it down, you're going to see that little plus symbol. Clicking on that plus will let you create a new custom page. If you're an administrator, you will have the share options to say what projects you want that page to be visible within. If you're a standard user, then you're creating the page just for yourself, so you won't have that option. Either is fine. And then let's actually walk through this real quick so that you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go into Rally, and let's say that under my Home button, I wanted to create a new dashboard that multiple teams are going to use. So I can come in and hit the plus symbol. I'm going to get that screen I showed you, and I may call this Demo Dashboard. These are, again, the sharing options that you'll have if you're an administrator. If I check Share with All Projects, it will show up in all the projects in my hierarchy, or I can uncheck it, and I can have it just show up in specific projects if they're the only ones that need it. I'm just going to check all. And then down at the bottom, you'll see that you have a filter where if I wanted to, I can add an iteration filter or a release filter, and I'll have a drop down in the upper left corner where I can pick an iteration, pick a release, and then the apps on that page that are release or iteration filterable, is that a word? I think it's a word, that are filterable will be, when you pick the one that you want, all of the data will change. In my example, I'm just going to leave it with none. I'm going to say Save and Close. And that's going to bring me to my new custom page. I can go with one column if it's a board. I can go with 2 even columns if I want a dashboard. I can go with 2 columns where one is wide, one is narrow, if I want like a board and then a list beside it or something. If you've got a big monitor, you can go with 3 columns. I'm just going to go with 2 for now, and then say start adding apps. And what's going to come up now is the Rally app catalog, and it is worth spending some time and looking at these different apps, because these are all different things that you might choose to implement in order to report on information that you're looking for. Blocking history will let me see work that's blocked. These custom reports are hugely valuable. We're going to talk about them a couple slides from now, and so on. But take a look and see what charts or information are valuable for you. So I'm just going to add the iteration burn up and say add this app, and then I can come into settings and make changes to this if I want to. Different apps are going to have different report settings that you can go to. Okay, so that's just a little bit on custom pages, but it's definitely worth taking the time to find those and create them however you need. So moving on from there, this is actually my very, very, very favorite app in the whole app catalog. I use this one app, the custom list, more than I use everything else in that app catalog combined. And that's saying something because there's 90+ apps in the app catalog. But the custom list is what lets you create a list of work items for whatever type you want. It could be user stories, defects, test cases, portfolio items, Rally users, administrative functions. But I can pick one thing, get a list of it, and then on this, I have the ability to add and remove fields. I can filter for data. I can save views. And whatever reporting that you have where you need a list of work items meeting some criteria, this is my go-to. So custom list app, when you go to add it, you'll see it says custom list, in parentheses, formerly custom grid. Play with this a couple times and you'll love it too, trust me. All right. The next one, and this is part of, again, still that building on adding a custom page, putting an app on it. Let's say it was the custom list. Now we can filter and save views. You can do this on other pages as well. It's not just that app. We can do this on the backlog page, portfolio items, iteration status, and so on. But I use it a lot with the custom list because I'm using it for that reporting. So you'll see up at the top, it looks like a funnel. That's your filter icon. You can click on that and get quick filters such as the search, where then I could click in there and I could type in cart if I wanted to see all my work items that had cart in it. There's that filter by owner. You can click on that little magnifying glass at the right side of that field. It'll give me a drop down and I can pick owners. Or you can click that advanced filter button, and then that's going to give you the option to do some more complex filtering. You can also at the top save this as a view. It will save what fields you've displayed, what criteria you've entered, and again, if you're an administrator, you can share that. So let's take a look at this real quick. So I'm going to go back to my Rally, and I'm going to now add, from that little gear, I'm going to say add app. I'm going to go into my very favorite custom list. There it is. I'm going to add the app. Let's say that for this one we want user stories. I can change the title and say save. And from this custom list, you're going to see up at the top, this is that filter icon that we talked about. These are those quick filters where I can type in cart and just get work items that have cart in the name. I can click the little magnifying glass, get a drop down, filter by owner. Here's those advanced filters that we talked about. And I can add multiple conditions. So I could say that maybe I want to know if it's blocked. I could add additional fields, maybe block equals yes, and it filtered by that. Then I could add another field and say maybe whether or not it's expedited, and I can enter a value for that. You will also see that there is this little match filters right here. Drop that down. If it's set to all, that means and. And right now, there's nothing that is blocked and expedited. If I set that to any, it's or. So now I'm saying either work that is blocked Or I'm seeing work that is expedited, and now I've got more options. You can also do custom things. If I drop that down again and select custom, you'll notice Rally put a little number next to all of those different filters. And now you can do a custom condition of like 1 and 2 or 3, whatever you want to do. And then up here at the top is where we can save this as a new view. We can manage existing views and make changes to them. So if I click Save View, and then we're going to talk about this in an upcoming one, but there is a lab to actually share those views if you wanted to do that as well. So that's a little bit on the advanced filtering, the standard filtering, and the Save Views. Those are features that I use frequently. All right, so let's go to the next one. And I will go back into present mode. And one of my coworkers, when I initially put together this list of 10 top things, and I sent it around to my team, and one of my coworkers said, iteration status page has to be on that list. And in his words, live it, love it, learn it. You'll spend a lot of time here if you're a Scrum user. So the iteration status page has a lot of different customizations that you can do. It has the reporting bar at the top, different views that you can look at. So let's go take a look at that. So I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to go to Track Iteration Status. And from here, you'll see a drop-down of your iterations. You can also use the next and previous to go back and forth as well. I have this reporting bar at the top, so I can expand it or collapse it using the little arrows. But in here, I've got my pie charts, my burn down, cumulative flow charts are all built in, number of days till the end of the iteration, my accepted story points, how much work is active, and so on. You also have the ability to look at this as a card view, so in the upper right corner. I can look at this as a card view, and I've got swim lanes, so my expedited work is at the top, my non-expedited work is down at the bottom, so you can configure it that way. I can add and remove columns if I'm on the list view. I can add and remove fields from the cards if I'm on the card view. So a lot of functionality here, but this is the icon to add and remove fields from cards or the list. And then again, the same filtering that we talked about before. This could be the page, again, if you're doing Scrum, where your teams are probably going to live and do the majority of their work. Also from here, I can mark work is ready to be accepted. I can block work. I can work with tasks, test cases, and so on. It's a great page. Okay, but for time, I could spend all day on just that one, but for time I won't. So moving on from iteration status, we are now up to number 7. This is data integrity dashboards, and there is an article for this that we added the link to on the CA community website. But data integrity dashboards are how you can verify within Rally that your teams are doing what your working agreements are. So are your teams sticking with and following the working agreements that they've set? So for example, maybe when we are working with defects, we have a resolution field. And when a developer marks that a defect has been fixed, we want them to fill in the resolution field. We don't want to make it a mandatory field because when the defect is new, we don't know how we're going to resolve it yet. We only just discovered it. So we're going to resolve it later. So you can set up a dashboard. This is using that custom list app again that we talked about. But I can put an app on that dashboard and write a query to say, show me all the defects where the status is fixed or greater and resolution is empty. And that way, if ever somebody has marked something as fixed and oops, we forgot to fill that in, I'm going to know about it. So these data integrity dashboards deal with the Rally query language. And specifically, what I'm talking about, if I go back to our demo dashboard page, and here's that custom list that we created earlier. If I hit the gear on that custom list and go to settings, you'll actually see that there's a query field right there. That's the query that I'm talking about. And if you click on Query Help, there's going to be examples for different queries that you can write here. And if you scroll further down, there's even a link to the API documentation. If you really want to dig into writing some queries, you can do that. If you're not logged into Rally, it's actually going to prompt you to log in. That's because it's actually going to pull information, not just on the Rally out-of-the-box fields, but your custom fields as well. And you'll be able to write queries to just help you identify the information that you want. If you need more information on that, again, the help article is really good on writing queries. We also have a class called Rally Power User. I've got a mention of that towards the end of the slides. And they will get into, in that class, teaching you how to write those kind of queries. And then finally, the help article that you will find on the community as well via that link. You can go to that, and it's going to give you different examples of what are some common things that we've seen customers want to report on and pull information from, and it'll show you kind of how to set that up, what that custom list would look like. But it's just kind of how you dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure that everybody is following the working agreements of the team. So that's Data Integrity Dashboards. I highly recommend the article. Okay, so moving on. Another custom app. I'm often asked what are some of the most popular apps. If you've been paying attention, you know Custom List is my favorite, but this estimation board app is another one that's really good. What it lets you do is easily size your user stories without getting into some of those arm wrestling matches of, it's a 3, no, it's a 5, no, it's a 3. Let's kind of move past that and just think about it in terms of small, medium, large, etc. So let me show you how to create this one, because this is one that you may want to take advantage of. So I'm going to go back to Rally, and I've actually already created it. So I used the plus sign. I created a custom page. I made it one column, and then I added, from the app catalog, the estimation board. So if you see it, you'll see it right there. So that's the board that we just created. In the settings of this board, again, settings are always via that gear. If I go into settings, you will see, oops, not there, sorry. It's actually via app tool. Those are the settings that we want. It will let you designate what are the columns that you want on your board. You do want to have a 0 point not estimated column, because that's where your work that you haven't estimated yet will show up. But then you can enter in whatever column names you want with whatever point estimate. So Fibonacci sequence of numbers is pretty standard, but if you're using a different numbering convention, you can put in there whatever numbers it is that you're estimating your stories with, and you can either remove columns, add more columns, so however many you need. But when I come in here, for example, I've got this user story 56, spike, tax table calculations. I need my glasses to read that one. But if you want to drag it over, we can as a team say, well, is this small? No, I think it's bigger than those small ones, or those very smalls. Well, does it fit in the small column? No, it's kind of bigger than those two. What about medium? Yeah, it's probably about the same as those. So then I can drop it into that column, and I have sized the story. So I think it gives the team a really easy way to determine how do we want to size the work and kind of take it away from arguing over this point value versus this one, but really just get back into that comparison of where does this fit compared to the other work that we have. So that kind of relative sizing. So that's the estimation board. Moving on from that, this is another page that when I was new at Rally, somebody had told me this was her very, very favorite page in Rally. And I'm like, really? That one? The team status page? But the value of it is the way that it works with the hierarchy and the way that you can see everything that your teams are doing. So I'm going to switch back to Rally yet again, and I'm going to go into Track, and you'll see Team Status right there. I'm going to click on Team Status, and right now I'm at the shopping team, and I'm actually realized I'm in a demo environment where I don't have a whole lot of work to show. So let me go up, and if that doesn't work, I may log into a different project real quick. I'm checking time. I have time. Okay. Because I do want you to see the value of this page, because it's one that I don't think is used very often, and yet it has a lot of value to it. So I'm going to go into my track team status from here, where I actually have some work going on. And you'll see that I've got Beth, Dave, Dora. I've got a lot of different people, and some of my people are in the red. That means they are overcommitted. They have entered their capacity for the amount of work that they can do, and they're in the red. That's not good. So odds are they're not going to be able to finish all the tasks that are assigned to them. I can expand that out and see that Dora is assigned to work on both the fulfillment team and the payment team. And I can expand that out still further and see what tasks is she working on, and it lets me know where she is overcommitted. So she's only 40% on fulfillment team, but payment team has given her 180% of what she said her capacity is. I'm going to have to talk to that team. We're probably going to need to reassign some of that work because we're at a pretty big risk that she's not going to be able to get all of that done. If I drop down to just the payment team, then I can see her work for just that one project. So the page is reloading depending on where you are in the hierarchy and depending on what scoping you have. So down here at the bottom, you'll see I have child projects checked. So if I go up to online store, I'm seeing information for online store and everything beneath it because of the dark highlight that's around everything. So that's kind of that visual, or if you have it collapsed, that down arrow tells me I'm looking down. So I can see that Dora is over capacity, and I can see she's over capacity on payment team, and I can take steps to address that. And then hopefully I don't kill my developers and they end up quitting on me. So that's the value of that page. So that's the team status page under track. And let me go back into present mode yet again. And the last one is around rich text field templates. And these are templates that you can create within a rich text field, and then there's actually a lab to share those so that you can have multiple people take advantage of them. So let me show you real quick what those are. So I'm going to go into Plan Backlog, and I'm just going to open a user story. And within my user story, so these are the rich text fields where you have the ability to bold, italics, underline, highlight, etc. So these are those fields, and I can enter in some text. If it's a user story, then maybe I always want to know who is the stakeholder, who requested this, maybe I want to know is there budget. I'll try to spell budget, there we go. So whatever it might be, but you can enter in what are the things that are important to be entered into that field. And then there is this templates button up here in the upper right corner of that field. So I can click on template and say that I want to save this as a story criteria. So I saved that for story criteria as a template. And now I have the ability to apply any one of these templates to a story, to a defect, to whatever field I want, and it's going to fill in those fields automatically. This feature was hugely popular when it first came out, and right after it came out, everybody said, oh, we love it, how do we share the templates? And initially there wasn't a way to share it. So along came, and I'm going to go into Settings and My Settings, and up at the top you'll see Labs. Along came something called Rally Labs, or Agile Central Labs. And labs are things that our developers work on in a hackathon and then make available to you. These are not officially supported through tech support, so I have to put that caveat in there. But these are some really great pieces of additional functionality that our developers have created and made available to you. Now, I'm logged into this Rally subscription as a standard user. So within here, here's that rich text template sharing. You'll see that I've turned it on. These labs, an administrator first has to approve them. They can turn them on just for themselves initially and test it out. Then the administrator can choose to share it. You'll see down at the bottom this copy formatted ID, this QDP. Those are not enabled, so I can't turn those on yet because my subscription admin hasn't enabled it. So I have to go up to him and tap him on the shoulder and go, dude, hook me up, I want this lab. But in the meantime, I have to wait. The others, once an administrator enables it, each user can individually turn it on or turn it off for themselves. It's up to them. So that's where this rich text template came from, and I'll go back to that in just a minute and show it. I want to mention one other thing while I'm on the screen, and that's that little feedback button that you see over to the right. Real human beings, I promise you, really do read every piece of feedback that we get. They don't have the time usually to respond to all of it, but they do read it, and it goes to the product owner of that feature, or if you're on a beta page and you send feedback there specific to that page, it's going to go to that team. So if you're using one of these labs and you have feedback, please do send us feedback. If you just have general feedback, there's also the general feedback button right there. But I wanted you to see those. So I'm going to go back, and because I have that lab turned on, I have permissions. I have the ability to share this template that we just created with our stakeholder requested this. I can turn it on for just this Rally project, in this case online store, or I could turn it on for my entire lab or my entire workspace if I wanted to. And if you hit the apply on any one of these, it's going to add that in. So I hit apply, and you can add multiple templates into a field. So that just added that template in there. So that's a little bit on the templates and the sharing. If I go back to my slides again, there is help on that topic as well. And actually on every one of these help topics, I did put a link to the help in there so you can read more about it. Because we had a whole top 10, we're going through these rather quickly, but the help is going to give you more information if there's more that you're looking for. So moving on, a couple of bonus links. This is a link to our beta help page. So we have a specific help page for Rally features that are currently in beta. And I've included that link, so if you wanted to learn more about work views, if you wanted to learn more about webhooks, or any of these items, there is a specific page that you can go to learn more about those. I've also included a link to the Rally status page, and that just lets you see, I think yesterday there was an issue with the search. So if you were searching and had trouble finding it, you can go to this page and say, oh, they're already aware of it, they're fixing it. This lets you see kind of where we are at any given point. So I've included links to both of those, as well as, if I go back into present mode, there we go. I also mentioned the Power User class. There's a link there to the Power User class specifically, or just our CA Agile Academy if you wanted to take classes on Agile best practices, on using Rally, but that Power User class specifically is a really good one for learning things like the queries that we talked about and some of the other more advanced features of Rally. It's a great class. It was one of my favorites that I took when I came. And then I also included all of the links to all of the help pages that we covered previously in the session. So this one slide, if you download the deck, is kind of your link to all of the help articles and every topic that we covered. So it's your one-stop shop. And with that, I wanted to ask if there were any questions via the Q&A, and specifically, are there questions on Rally or CA Agile Central? Because I can't help with tax returns or anything along those lines. But if there's questions about Rally, CA Agile Central, we can definitely take those. Caitlin, do you have some from the Q&A?
Yeah, we actually have a bunch of questions. I just wanted to address one of the more common questions.
Okay.
Peggy's webcast replay, as well as her slides, are going to be posted on the Agile Central community within a few days. So just keep an eye out. We will be posting a link to the replay and presentation right on the front page. So that's where you can get this great information. And we can start answering some of the questions now. We have a question from Elizabeth, and her question is, can I get 4 columns for a custom board?
Okay.
Is it possible to have 4 columns?
So there's 2-part answer to that one. So if you go into a custom board, out of the box, On the Kanban boards, if you've created a custom page and you have added the Kanban app, it's going to ask you for what you want your columns to be. So schedule state is what they're going to be by default. You can create a custom field and call it Kanban state or board state or whatever you want to call it, and then put whatever values you want in that custom field. If you're using the Kanban board app, you want to add that custom field to both user stories and defects for it to show up, because the board shows both, and if the custom field isn't on both work item types, you won't see it. But once you have done that, let me go back, and I'm going to go into my custom. So I created a custom field previously, and now I've got far more than just 4 columns. I've got prioritized, ready for dev, in dev, etc. And all of that was done by, if I go into my settings, I chose Kanban state instead of schedule state and did the schedule state mapping. Now, that's how we had to do it until recently, and I said it was a 2-part answer. So that was the first part. The second part is if you have not yet taken a look at the new team board, this is a built-in to Rally out-of-the-box page that is significantly easier to customize than what I just showed you. So under Track Team Board, if I click there, teams have the ability to customize the board for whatever they want and create your own fields based on whatever you want, and it won't impact anybody else. So I'm going to go down actually to my team level where I've set this up. But in here, I created something very similar to what you just saw, but I didn't need to create a custom field at all. There's this gear in the upper right corner, and if you click on that, you have the option to say Add Flow State. So I can call this my new state because I'm not feeling super creative. There's options here to move it right, or I can just take it and I get the cursor in the right spot. I can just drag it to wherever I want it to go. And then it's going to map back to the default schedule state automatically. So this is something that the team can do without needing an administrator. So if you haven't played with the team board yet, I highly recommend it. It's our new Kanban board. It has a lot of the same functionality. I can now add and remove fields from the card, so I can change what's displayed on my card. I can show working agreements. That's the button right there to add them. From the gear, I can set up my WIP or work in progress limits, exit agreements. This is a lot more than you asked, sorry. I've warned people when they ask me to do this webcast that I get carried away. But it's a really great board that is new to Rally. It's worth taking a look at. The only functionality that Kanban board app has that this doesn't yet is swim lanes. So if those are really important to you, then stick with the Kanban board app for now. But keep an eye on this team board because I think pretty soon it's going to surpass it. And then as you're using it, again, there's that feedback button. Okay, I'll stop now and take other questions.
Great. So I noticed we have a ton of questions. I'm kind of going to jump around to get a variety of topics, but I just want to let everybody know that if we don't answer a question live on the call today, we will gather all the unanswered questions and we will put them in a Q&A document and upload them along with the presentation. Okay, let's see. Jenna has a question about team capacity. Do you start with hours or points? How is that set? And is that agreed to at the start of an iteration?
Okay, so there's 2 measures. So there's capacity and there's velocity. On the user stories and the team level, we usually measure in story points. So we estimate the user stories and story points. The estimation board's a great way to do that. And then iteration over iteration at the team level, we track how many stories and what was the total number of story points that the team did. At the individual level, so now we're at the team member, now we're talking about measuring capacity in hours. So velocity is, again, the story points at the team level. How many stories did the team get done, iteration over iteration? Capacity is our team members' hours, and how many hours did they have to dedicate to tasks? So hours and tasks usually go hand in hand, and team members can enter, it's actually this project. no, that one. I'll get there eventually. Team members can enter how many hours that they have to give to any given project, and the tasks are usually estimated in the hours, and that's where we're comparing it. The stories are typically at points, and that's velocity. So both. But I hope that made sense.
Okay, great. And let's see. For step 9, team status, how did you end up having the state show the red-green colors showing resource capacity? Mine doesn't have that.
Oh, okay. So if you're on the team status page, so you've gone to track team status, and you're looking at this page and you're like, I don't have any little graphs, check, there's 2 things to check. Do you have team members entered their capacity? So for example, Beth up here at the top, Beth doesn't have a pretty little bar. Beth doesn't have a bar because Beth hasn't entered her capacity. So if we come in and say that she has 10 hours, now I will get the bar. So the team members have to enter their capacity for the amount of time that they have to work on this project. And we don't want to put 40 hours in there for a week, by the way, because we have meetings, we have to go to the restroom at some point, we have lunch, we have other things, so you never want to put your capacity to 100% anyway. But the bars are calculated using the capacity versus their to-do hours. So also check and see if they have anything in their to-do.
And we can take a few more questions. David has a question that says, my team is spread over several projects. How can I view all tasks and defects assigned to them on all of those projects in a single panel?
Okay. So it's going to depend a little bit on how your hierarchy is set up, and definitely look at that hierarchy. But let's assume that, like in this example, Dora is doing work for both fulfillment team and payment team. If she goes down to fulfillment team or payment team in the hierarchy, she's only going to see one or the other. So you want to have a dashboard set that is pulling information from a higher level than just one project. And you can actually do that. I'm going to go back to my, I'm in a different project again. Let me go back. I'm going to go back to my demo dashboard. And I'm actually down at shopping team, but you can fix your custom list to be whatever project you want. So for example, I'm going to come in and add a list. There's my favorite custom list app. It's going to come down here under my demo dashboard. I'm going to set this so that no matter where I am, this is at the top level of my hierarchy. So I want it to look from online store down. So I'm going to pick online store. And let's say it's that since users typically want to see tasks, I'm going to put task in there. So now I'm going to see all tasks from online store down. And actually, I think there's an app for my tasks, which I probably should have done. But I can also just take this list and then filter it and say, I just want to see me. And now I'm seeing all of my tasks from all of my projects. Let me maximize this real quick so you can see it. And then I'm going to add the project field just so you know that I am telling the truth. So I'll add project. And now I've got work from shopping team, API team, online store. So this is one consolidated view where I'm seeing all of my tasks no matter where I am in the hierarchy. Because no matter where I am, this is always going to show me my list from the top. So that'll do it. Next.
And we have a question from Adam. Are you able to measure capacity from user stories instead of tasks?
So user stories, if we go into them, have an estimate field assigned to them, and it's really just a numeric field, so you can kind of use it for whatever you want. So I'm in my user story, and here's my plan estimate. Now, most people do use that for story points, but it's just an integer. So you can make that integer represent whatever you want it to be. So if you want to tell everybody, hey, we estimate stories in hours, then you estimate stories in hours. There's nothing in Rally that says, that number's kind of high to be a story point. We think that's hours. We're not going to allow that. It's just an integer, so it can represent whatever has value to you.
And Donna, she has a question. How can a regular user, not admin, create a custom page to share with others?
So you suck up to your admin, maybe buy them cookies, chocolate, whatever their particular weakness is. If you're a standard user, you're not going to be able, you'll be able to create the page, but in order to share it, you do need an admin. So what I've seen a lot of organizations do is the user might create a page and kind of fine-tune it and go, oh, this is really good now, but then they have to go to their admin to share it. Sorry.
Okay, we're going to take one more question. Marie says, I can't select swim lanes on iteration status. How do I get it opened up for use?
Okay, let me see if I can find that. And if I don't find it quickly, then we'll put it in the help afterwards. I've got a poll question, so I'm just going to move that out of the way. And so on my iteration status, obviously I'm in the board view. And then up here are settings, the gear in the upper right. And there's your swim lane checkbox right there. So let me cancel and go back there one more time, but go to the track iteration status page, go into card view, upper right corner, there's a little gear. Click that gear and go to settings, and you should see the option for swim lanes right there. You check the box, and then you enter what fields you want to be swim lanes on. Expedite is a common one, sometimes owner is another. And it's safe.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Peggy. This was so much great information, and I appreciate your demo aspects as well. Do you want to just quickly show on this slide how people can ask questions on the Agile Central community?
Absolutely. If you have not visited the Agile Central online community, please do. There are some really great user forums out there that you can participate in. There's a just released one that shows new things. So if you're like, well, how do I know what new stuff is coming out? You can follow it and get email notifications. Also on that online community, there is the option to ask a question. You can post questions there. Other Rally users, as well as folks like myself from CA, will jump on there and answer those too. So it can be a great way to learn about Rally, collaborate with other Rally users or us. And if you're watching this as the replay and you're like, oh, I have a question and I couldn't make it live, that's how you ask. And me or somebody will definitely get back to you.
Great, and we do have a poll to the right of your screen. If you could please take a moment and just rate what you thought of the session, the value that you've gotten from it, that would be greatly appreciated. Another reminder, the replay and also slides will be available in the Agile Central community within a couple of days. I highly encourage you to share this replay with your colleagues and your coworkers and just share all this great information and goodness that was shared today. And I guess in closing, if you liked this session, stay tuned because next month we will have another webcast hosted by the Customer Success team, and we're going to be talking about Portfolio Manager, so tips and tricks on how to use Portfolio Manager and how to get the most value out of it. But Peggy, is there anything else? Or?
That's it. That's all that I had, but thanks everybody for your time, and again, I hope it was useful.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.